Hey everyone, it's been a little bit. It's time for another Fallout Hobbies tutorial video. Today I'm going to be working on this Sunshark bomber. I'm going to be using two different stencils. One is a stencil that I released, I don't know, about 2 months ago. It's a disruptive camo pattern. As you can see here, it's a pretty cool camo pattern. I'm going to be doing a couple different layers of color over top of here, and I'm going to be using the brand new Xenos barcode stencil, which is very new, and you can see I'm going to have some nice lettering airbrushed in a couple areas, so that's going to be exciting. So without further ado, let me start. Oh, here we go. Oh yeah, look at that. That's going to be sick. Okay, great. So let me start with some base coats. The thing with doing camo patterns is it's just a lot of layering colors on top of each other to get the most, disruptive effect that you can get. So I'm gonna start with the lighter colors first. Now what I'm gonna do for this camo pattern, it's gonna be mostly browns, greens. So I'm going to start with these three colors: Model Air Dark Yellow, Medium Olive, and Armor Brown. I'm going to just, I'm kind of just going to wing it. I'm just going to see how they look. Maybe I'll use some Russian green instead. Not really sure. It's hard to tell in the bottle for me, and a lot of times with stuff like this, I just kind of wing it with the first model, see what looks best. So that's what I'm going to do here. But I do know that I want a saturated yellow, so I'm gonna start with this dark yellow as the base color. Just loading up my airbrush over here. I am going to be painting the underside of the bomber a different color. So right now I'm just really worried about getting a nice top coat. Should put more paint in the gravity feed at the same time. While the armor pieces are drying, I'm just going to go ahead and start airbrushing some of the other areas, like these little detail bits. I'm going to start off with Game Air gunmetal. Away on me. Hold on. All right, now that these are painted gunmetal with one coat, I'm gonna do a quick blast with aluminum just to kind of like highlight them a little bit. I'm gonna go back in with like washes and dry brushing and all that good stuff, but you know, sometimes I like to just lay a quick highlight down with the airbrush. There we go. Oh, sorry, my hand's getting in the camera way there. You're spitting too. Okay, good. Still waiting for the yellow to dry enough to start applying stencils. So in the meantime, I'm going to use this Model Mates Oil Brown Wash over top of the things that I already airbrushed with gunmetal and aluminum. I love this stuff. This is such an amazing wash. And I'll show you why in just a second. So it's drying pretty quick. It's an alcohol-based wash, but this is where the beauty happens. Okay. Get a nice brush going. Brush just has a little bit of water on it, that's all. Look at the cool burnished effect that's starting to happen here. Really starting to get into the crevices there. I'm digging that. So this wash, what's great about it is it's pretty concentrated. It's an oil wash, but you can move it around after it's dry. You can basically just re-wet it and kind of move it around. You could use a small brush like this to get it into a little stronger in some crevices. Just get it a little extra strong in there. There you go, that's really starting to look good. That's what I like to see. So while I'm still waiting for other aspects to dry, I decided to move on to giving a base coat to the underside of the model, which I'm going to do sky blue, like old-fashioned Earth bombers, even though this is an alien ship. I'm gonna use some intermediate blue and some light gray. Oops. There we go. Just a nice, just a nice neutral light blue on the underside. There's certain areas I'm going to go in and touch up by hand when it's all said and done. I mean, I kind of got to see how everything looks once I lay out the camo pattern on it. Alright, well it's that magical time to start applying airbrush stencils and do the first color. First, let me think about this for a second. Do I want to do this Russian green color, or do I want to do medium olive? I'm going to go for Russian green. It's quite darker than the yellow, but still kind of in the same color key, which is pretty important for me. I don't want the camo to be too garish. Alright, I'm going to start with the wings. I'm going to kind of position this where I think it would look best. Okay. There we go. Now, as with all Fallout Hobbies stencils, they're self-adhesive vinyl, and the question I get asked about 30 times a day, yes, they are reusable many times, just take care of them, don't get them dirty. In this particular instance, I just want to paint this wing, so I'm gonna kind of mask off that section of the canopy so that the airbrush will be more controlled and just be able to hit this wing area. I'm also going to use the other half of the stencil sheet to do the other wing and do both things at the same time. As you see, the stencils, peel off. There might need to be a little bit of fiddling to get some of the smaller bits off, but overall, that's pretty much it. One thing I should mention with the camo patterns is after you're done with these bits, you also have all these little leftover bits which are really cool, which you could like peel off to add some extra texture and whatnot. Very fun. just take your time when applying them, you know. It's not a rush. Don't be impatient. Don't nerd rage and flip a table over. You know what I'm saying? It's just airbrushing. Alright, there we go. Those are good. I'm also going to put just a little bit of masking tape underneath the stencil here, because I want the front of that nozzle kind of covered up a bit. Is that even going to let me do that with the curve? Probably not. I'm just protecting against overspray a little bit. It'll give it a cleaner edge, cleaner paint edge. Okay, there we go. I'm gonna start. All right, Russian green. Here we go. All right, don't go crazy. Don't glob the paint on. If you have to do 2 passes to get an even coat, do it. See, it's not globbed on. There's no paint leaking under the mask. It's a very light, even coat. That's essential. Very light, even coat. I'm gonna go back and do this one again. Now that it's had a few minutes to dry. 1 minute. I can already tell there's probably going to be a little bit of underspray right there where there's a nub piece to the panel. I could fix that manually. Alright, let's just let that dry for a minute and then I'll peel it. Alright, I peeled the one side and it came off really good. So here we go, I'm gonna do it over here so you can see the magic. Again, don't go like that. Don't grab it and rip it off. You're gonna peel the paint and rip your stencil. Be very gentle with it. There we go. That is what I'm talking about for the first layer. Alright, now what I'm going to do off camera is I'm going to take the same stencil patterns and just apply it to here, here, and here so that I can finish off the first color. Then we'll do the next color. Just so you could see, so I've applied the next layer of stencils for those sections, and I put masking tape underneath of here before I put the stencil on to protect what was already done on the wings on either side. And you know what, just to be safe, I'm going to put a little extra masking tape to kind of extend it in case there's any overspray in those sections. Yeah, good idea. Good idea, Ron. Okay, there we go. Oh, another thing I want to point out real quick is when applying stencils, if there's like areas like antennas or whatever this thing is, this little sensor, I try to, if I'm doing a camo pattern, I try to get them like poked through the hole of the camo pattern, so that way the stencil around it can adhere more tightly. I think it creates less stress on the stencil. Creates a better paint job. Camera a little bit more. Sorry, guys. Let me let that dry for a second, and then I'm going to hit it with the second blast. Almost got a little bit too strong there. This started getting a little heavy on the paint, but I pulled away just in time so that it didn't get too drippy. It's very easy to do. Now here's something we're gonna do for these little drones, which are so tiny, so incredibly tiny. I am gonna use some of the negative ends of the stencil to mask off the yellow. Let's see, this one looks good. Some around the side here. Looks good. Sure. When I'm doing that, I try to find the pieces that have the most dynamic edges and apply it in a way that kind of maximizes the effect. You're probably a little bit like, wow, what the hell happened to this flyer? Well, I decided to go for a different approach with the next layer. So instead of using the stencil sheets that I've been using, I decided to use the negatives, the areas from inside the stencil sheet, to kind of like wrap around here, and then I'm going to spray the next color on, and hopefully it'll work. For the next color, I think I'm going to go with a medium olive. I want to kind of green this up a little bit. Looking good. Okay, so I hit a bit of a snafu. I was working with medium olive, which when I was doing a color test on a piece of paper with it, medium olive with Russian green, you know, I thought the contrast between the two would be enough. Honestly, I wasn't going for something over the top. I wanted like a more subtle contrast, but it was. I peeled a section away down here, and it was way too subtle for my liking. I could barely see what was going on. So what I'm doing is I'm going with medium olive again, but I'm darkening it up a couple notches with some armor brown. Just a couple drops of armor brown, just to kind of like, you know, just drop it a notch darker and pump up the contrast. So far it's looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it here. I am just adding some brown weathering in some areas, just to kind of like pop a few things out, you know. Kind of ease it a little bit in some spots. But yeah, the camo's pretty much done. What I'm going to do right now is I'm actually gonna apply a layer of clear coat over this and let that thoroughly dry for a while before I go and do anything else, because I want to protect this layer because I'm pretty happy with this camo effect. So, alright, so I have now clear coated the entire model and I let it sit for a while. And what I'm going to do is use this Model Mates Oil Brown weathering liquid again, and I'm going to use a little airbrush thinner to create a wash, like a thinner wash, that's going to go over the entire model, the underside as well, which I've been working on a little bit off camera. I'm going to oil everything down and then proceed to kind of clean up the wash a bit afterwards, and then do the final touches. So we're really close to being done here. This one. Let me start by, I need like a little cup or something. There we go. Got the bottom of a Dixie cup. I'm going to cut this cup down a little bit. Alright, so this wash, the oil brown wash itself is pretty good right out of the bottle, but it's heavy, and I'm not going for a super heavy wash in this instance. I want it to be a little thinned out. So there we go. See, that's pretty good. That's nice. The main purpose of this wash is to really bring out all the panel lines and to get into all the little cracks and cregs around the equipment, like up here and stuff, you know? I just want to bring that detail out a little bit. If I were to airbrush the wash, which I do sometimes with Gundam models, it would really diminish the browns, the light browns of the camo pattern, and I'm not trying to do that, you know, because I like my 40K models to have a little bit more contrast. Especially because, you know, you're playing with them on tabletop, so I want them to, you know, be a little bit more visible, whereas Gundam models, the way I tend to do them, is a little bit more realistic, more like a military model. Okay, so now that the wash is dried, this is where the fun part starts. So I have this napkin, right, that's just a little bit wet. Check this out. The wash itself can be washed off except for what's in the cracks. See? Which is pretty cool. There we go. Oh, that looks great. Now see how the wash is just staying in the cracks where it's like supposed to? That is the benefit of an oil wash. Okay, so now I'm going to start painting some of the glowing blue areas. I'm going to do some OSL blue The main color I'm going to start with is electric blue from Yame Air, and then I'm going to follow it up with some light sea blue, and then a highlight of white. Alright, so the main weapon's going to get some blue first. A little bit on the drones back here. I started like doing a little bit with the brush just to kind of like block out which areas I wanted to glow. Alright, so here, because this is going to be the engine area that's glowing, I'm going to do a little on the inside here too. Now I have to figure out where the hot spot for this weapon is going to be. Just needs a little bit here. Glowing in the back there. Alright, so the main hot spot is like right here. See how I'm doing it in circles and moving outward? That's important because it kind of like intensifies and spreads it out a little bit. Okay, now the next blue. A lot of people think they can get away with doing one color with OSL blue, if OSL any color rather. If you're doing OSL effects, you need to have multiple layers of color building up a gradation. Otherwise, it just doesn't look believable. I was just working on them. This will launch over here. Okay, so the next shade up is a brighter blue. Which I'm going to use mainly for the hot spots. yeah, I'm gonna do the rest of that by hand real quick. Oh, I forgot to spray for these. Okay. Okay, so some really tiny pieces here. Closer to my face. Sorry. Okay, I gotta get this closer to my face, so I can't do this on camera, but I'm putting like one strip of blue right across there. There we go. Alright. There's still more highlights coming up. That's just the beginning of the highlights, really. So the next one we're gonna do is I'm gonna add a little white to that blue mix to bring it up a notch. And break out a skinnier brush. There we go. Added a highlight of white there. There. Here's the final highlight. So we went from electric blue to sky blue, and now I've got a mix that's mostly white with a little bit of blue. I gotta do this off camera because I just can't, with the camera in front of my face like this, I just can't see the detail. But I'm gonna hit these two spots and this spot. See? There we go. That looks like it's glowing right there. Let me get the weapons just a bit. Cool. All right, I think I'm actually good. Oh, I had to think about that for a second. All right, let me put some pieces together, and I'll come back. Cool. All right, I think I'm actually good. Oh, I had to think about that for a second. All right, let me put some pieces together, and I'll come back. All right, this is gonna be fun. I have some stencils here from the new Xenos barcode stencil set that I have. This is a big name one. I think I want the medium-sized name one. You might not be able to see it on camera, but there's... Nah, you can't see it on camera. But there's many different size names on here. You know what? I'll just start with those two and see how I feel. I don't want to go overboard with it. I hope that doesn't bleed under. It's my fault. Okay, moment of truth here. Let's see if this worked. There we go. That looks good. Okay. The only thing is because of the way I did the placement, this didn't come to the edge right here. I'm gonna fix that up by hand. Alright. I laid this on a little heavy by accident, so I hope there's no bleed. Looks pretty good. Alright. Cool. Now I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go use the same two pieces that I did here and here and put them in different spots and kind of repeat it. So I'll do that. All right, we're coming in on the home stretch here. So it's looking pretty good. The stencils, I reapplied the markings here, 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 here. The OSL is looking good. I've got a flat brush right now with a little bit of aluminum on it. And I'm just gonna go in and start throwing a couple of like metal accents around the edges of things, just to make those pop a little bit, very lightly. I'm not going crazy here. I'm not doing a ton of highlighting on this model. And just enough to like pop the edge a little bit. The underside's looking pretty good. I might need to fix that. I thought that this circle part was in the middle. I didn't realize it went there, so the OSL looks a little bit off there. I'm gonna fix that. But other than that, you know, doing a little bit of highlighting, just adding some effects here. But you know, honestly though, we're pretty much done. You know, the drones will fit in place there. Looking pretty good. I think what I'm gonna do is at this point, I'm gonna stop filming and I'm just gonna go finish up a bunch of the little details and take some beauty shots. Yeah, and then I think we're pretty good on that. All right.